Hi, welcome to Ulele Spring Brewery. My name's Tim Shackton. I'm the brewmaster here, and this is our assistant brewer, Thomas O'Neill. We'd like to welcome you to our 15-barrel, 2,100 square foot brewery, Ulele Spring Brewery. We start the process with malted barley, and it gets milled in the grist room. So we'll take the barley and feed it into a hopper of a mill. The mill cracks open the grain and exposes the starches that are necessary to convert to sugar for fermentation. Once the grain is milled, it travels through the flex auger. The flex auger is basically a PVC pipe with a corkscrew on the inside, and that corkscrew turns in place through taking the dry cracked grain up the auger to the grist case, which is located at the very top of the brewery. We'll take the cracked grain from the grist case, and it drops through a pipe directly into a tank called a mash tun. As the grain is falling through the pipe, I'm pulverizing it with hot water as it falls to the bottom of the mash tun to make what's called a mash. After we mix the mash, we allow it to rest for 1 hour. During this resting period, all of the soluble starches slowly convert into a highly fermentable sugar, which is necessary for fermentation. After the mash has converted all the soluble starches to fermentable sugar, we extract the liquid from the grain bed and wash the grain bed with hot water. The liquid runoff gets sent to the brew kettle, and that liquid runoff is the raw beer. We call it wort. Once that brew kettle is full of approximately 500 gallons of wort, the brew kettle is heated by natural gas, and we'll boil the wort very rapidly for about 2 hours. This is an important part of the process. We got to cook off the wort and add hops. Hops are cone-shaped buds. They provide bitterness, flavor, and aroma to the beer. We add hops at various points of the process, but during the boil, we'll add hops at the beginning of the boil for bitterness, throughout the course of the boil for flavor, and a large dose of hops at the very end of the boil to provide an aromatic for the beer. Once the wort is done boiling, it will be rapidly cooled to fermentation temperature and aerated with fresh oxygen through the plate frame heat exchanger. Once the wort comes out of the heat exchanger at the proper fermentation temperature, it gets sent into a sterile and refrigerated fermentation vessel, which is one of our conical shaped tanks located on the production floor in the brewery. Once the wort is inside the fermentation vessel, we will add the yeast. The yeast will slowly come out of its dormant state and start to consume all the sugar that was extracted from the brewing process. It takes approximately 1 to 2 weeks for primary fermentation. Yeast is the living organism that consumes all of the sugars that were extracted during the brewing process to create a byproduct of alcohol and carbon dioxide gas. It is critical to the process and the cement that holds the whole beer together. The fermentation temperature of beer is very important, as we use 2 different types of yeast that require 2 different fermentation temperatures. Lager yeast requires cold fermentation, 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas ale yeast requires room temperature fermentation, 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. After fermentation, the beer is slowly cooled in the fermenter to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, where it will lager or store cold for an additional 1 to 6 weeks. Ale takes 2 weeks of production time, while lager takes 3.5 to 8 weeks of production time from grain to glass. Once the beer is ready to serve, we'll send it from the fermentation vessel to a tax determination vessel in our walk-in cooler. The tax determination vessel is where we store the finished product and make our final reports to the ATF for paying our taxes. In most cases, the beer is served directly from the tax determination vessel to the faucet through a series of underground and refrigerated beer lines. We produce a core beer at Ulele Spring Brewery called Magby's Honey Lager. The honey that is used for Magby's Honey Lager is sourced from a ranch in Mayaca. It's a delicate blend of saw palmetto, Florida live oak, pasture flower. We use fruit in various stages of the process for several beers throughout the course of the year. Our wedding beer is the most popular. It is a mixed berry fruit lager, and we use a blend of field ripened raspberries and blackberries.